Let's talk about the guru. Guru is a word that simply means teacher in the Sanskrit language. It has come into the English language and into Western culture to usually have one or two connotations. One is kind of like the traditional one, which is someone who's an expert. The other one is one that is some kind of a charlatan, some sort of a fake spiritual teacher or a spiritual teacher that is playing a particular role, as like a guru on a pedestal. I totally understand why these are the two ways that most modern Western people hear the word. But here on Gurupurnima, which it is today, I want to talk a little bit about what is true about the guru as a principle and how this principle of the guru plays out for us as modern day seekers. We're also going to do a meditation together, a very cool tantric meditation called Gurubhava. So the word guru, literally in Sanskrit, it means heavy, or laden. It's like a tree that is a fruit tree that is laden with fruit. The fruit is ripe, it's heavy, it's hanging on the branches, and it's ready to come off and nourish. There's something about the word guru that has the connotation of nourishment and bestowal, that there's something that is being given in abundance by the guru. And as I said before, it just means teacher. And in India, in traditional arts and culture, any teacher is called a guru. So if you're studying to play the classical Indian drums known as tabla, you would have a tabla guru. Even if you were learning to do a traditional art like pottery or sculpture, you would have a guru that taught you that as well. Dance, singing, all kinds of music. And of course, there is the idea of the sadguru. Sadguru is someone who is teaching spirituality, who is teaching sadhana. Sadhana, a Sanskrit word we've talked about here before, meaning a direct path towards freedom, towards enlightenment. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about the guru. But before we talk about human gurus, let's talk about the guru principle, in Sanskrit, gurutattva. So the gurutattva, or the guru principle, is the principle of transformation. It's the principle of going from ordinary consciousness, bound consciousness, as we talk about it in the tradition, to liberated consciousness. Sometimes we talk about the guru principle as this principle of going from darkness to light. But let's geek out with me just a little bit here. You've seen the dancing Nataraja, the form of Shiva where he's dancing in a ring of fire and his arms are raised holding different implements and doing different gestures. This is a symbol that depicts what are known as the 5 acts of the divine. So in the tantric cosmology, we understand the divine has these 5 main things that it does. It creates everything continuously. It is creating everything. It is sustaining everything, right? It's keeping everything. It's nourishing everything. When it's done, when any particular thing is done, the divine is also dissolving everything continuously, creating, sustaining, dissolving continuously. This is the first mantra, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara. It's saying the Guru is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, these divine powers that do this continuously. That's the Hindu part, is just the creation, sustenance, and dissolution. In yoga, in particular in tantric yoga, then we have the awareness of these other two parts. Everything is created, sustained, dissolved, but the whole process is hidden. The whole process is hidden through a power known as Maya. It's concealed. Sometimes Maya is talked about as a veil. Like, you can't see me really. I can still see you through this shawl, but it's veiled. So this process is veiled in such a way that we don't recognize it as the sacred. We don't recognize ourselves as sacred because we see ourselves as well as everything else through this veil of illusion. It's the fourth power. The fifth power is the power of revelation. So creation, sustenance, dissolution, veiling, concealing, and revealing. The guru, in the principal sense of this, the gurutattva is the principle of revelation. Gurur anugrahika shakti. The tantric scriptures say the guru is that grace-bestowing power. They call that grace, the revelation. Grace is not getting the parking spot that you want. Grace is not, getting your way. Grace is not something being easier than you thought it was going to be. All of those things, okay, they're great. But in the sense of, in the tradition, when we talk about grace, anugraha, we're talking about the real grace is the revelation of the divine. That's the gurutattva. That's the power of the guru. So throughout history and throughout the tradition of mystical learning, and of course I am trained in the Indian mystical tradition, but there are mystical traditions from many, many cultures around the world. Every one of those traditions has had this process called guru-disciple relationship. The parampara, this succession of teachers and students, gurus and disciples, where in that people will play the role of that power, for better, for worse, to a larger and lesser extent, depending on the people, depending on the context. You could say that this whole app, that the whole way that you are experiencing this talk right now is in some way playing the role of the guru right now. It's being a vehicle for that revelatory power by, accessing knowledge, accessing practices. And in the same way, people have played that role. There are some, they are more rare. There are some who are more rare, who are very complete vehicles for the Anugrahika Shakti. There are beings like that in my spiritual lineage who were almost not human in the sense that you and I, have jobs and all kinds of desires and all kinds of things that we do. Some of these masters really just came to earth just to be gurus, just to be vehicles for that energy, for those teachings, for that power of revelation. They're very rare. In most cases, there are human teachers who will play that role to some extent. Oftentimes, they're the disciples of those great masters. And the way that it works is that in the way that it should work, the way that it works when it's like authentic and bona fide, right? And I have to make this distinction, and I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but there are lineages of teachers that are more like religious lineages, where someone just gets appointed the seat of the master, and then they teach the stuff, the doctrine of that religion, like the Roman Catholic Church or something like that. Someone doesn't have to have any spiritual attainment to be a priest. They just have to go through the proper education, and then they pass the initiation, and then they're a priest. In the Indian mystical tradition, they have that sort of thing too, but I don't think of that as like the bona fide side of things. The bona fide side of things, as I understand it, is that there is an attainment, and hopefully a massive attainment, and then that master, in their massive attainment, teaches some disciples what works for them, and what worked for them as the teacher. They pass that on. And then the disciples take it. Some of them really go for it. Most don't. But some of them really go for it. And some of those disciples also gain an attainment. And through that attainment, then they pass on teachings and practices to their students, to their disciples. But they pass on, again, what works. What worked for them and what is working for the students. You see how this is different than the religious one. The religious one is just the same teaching that it was 10,000 years ago, same practices, you just do it. There's no adaptation, there's no modification, there's no innovation. Whereas in the more bona fide, from my point of view, guru-disciple parampara, there is modification, there is innovation, while holding that thread at the same time. That's the thing, is that the thread isn't lost. But what's passed on is what works. And hopefully, that's being passed on in an authentic way from the experience of that teacher, and hopefully a teacher with some mastery, not just someone who's gone through a training. Now we're talking about gurus here, but somebody who is like baked in it. One time I asked my teacher the difference between a teacher and a guru. And he used the example, he's a sadguru, he's a teacher of sadhana, but he used the example of music. And he said that, someone, a young teacher who's trained to play the sitar, for instance, can teach someone else to play the sitar. They can be a sitar teacher. They can teach them the ragas. They can teach them the technique on the instrument. They can teach them different compositions. No doubt. But the senior sitarist, the sitar guru, they have been steeped in that music for their whole life. It's in them. It's in their bones. And so they might say the same thing as the young teacher. You hold the sitar like this. You hit this combination of notes like that. They might even say less. They probably will say less than the younger teacher. But this is what my teacher said. But when they say it, they transmit it. They not only say, do it like this informationally and show it like this, but they transmit the energy of what they're teaching at the same time. That is the distinction. So translate that then to the spiritual teacher and the importance of that, and the importance of the spiritual teacher being really steeped in what they're doing. It's a very rare thing these days. There are many, and this isn't a thing about age, but there are many, very young people who, because we have access to platforms like this, can become teachers on platforms, sometimes with many people, sometimes very lucratively, but don't necessarily have that deep baking of the work within them. I believe it takes all kinds. I believe that in today's spirituality, we're not going to just have one guru. I think that nowadays, especially people who set themselves up as gurus, they're usually charlatans. I hate to say that, but it's usually the case these days. It's very rare for me to ever come across one of these people with a huge platform that literally puts themselves up on a big platform because they're teaching so many people that are called a guru, or they call themselves a guru, or they even name themselves some guru name. I won't say who or what. They're usually charlatans. I mean, in the extent that, like, you develop an eye for this, like a eye in the heart, perhaps. But I think that it's important for us to have great masters in our field, even if they're great masters who are no longer alive. I'm thinking of Anandamayi Ma or Ramana Maharshi, Bhagawan Nityananda of Ganesh Puri. That's my guru's guru. He's like my grandfather, my great-grandfather guru. Neem Karoli Baba, Ram Das's guru, and many others. And the great poet saints that were gurus, like Mirabai and Laleshwari and Kabir, Rumi. Those great masters, ascended masters, they embody that guru shakti, that guru tattva. I'm using these words, shakti and tattva, interchangeably. But they, shakti means power and tattva means principle. They embody them, and we can connect to them. If you come and you see my home or the places where I work, I will often have these framed photographs of masters around. Here's Bhagawan Nityananda right here on the wall next to me right now. If we're lucky enough, we actually can work with enlightened masters. Again, they're very rare, and the bona fide ones are usually not putting themselves out there. But in addition to those great masters, I think it's important to also have senior teachers, people that are really experts, people that are really baked in their work. And also sometimes younger teachers, sometimes newer teachers. And also having peers, having the Sangha, having people that you're learning with. And ultimately, you'll learn so much if you also have students. But not to jump to that, but to have all of those levels. You have people that are sort of like learning from you. You have people that you're learning from, and you're all under the umbrella of the guru principle, of this energy of massive enlightenment and like massive grace. Sadhana, the path of awakening, is not meant to be done alone. If you're a serious seeker, like if you're seriously like getting into meditation or seriously getting into inner yoga practices and mantras and stuff like this, you really need to have teachers. You need to have support. In most cases, I think you need to have a therapist too, but that's a whole other talk. But you need to have someone who's able to check you and supervise your work and correct your understanding when it's wrong. The problem is we're all professionals now. So we want your business. And there's only so much we can correct your understanding before you fire us and go find someone who's easier to work with. Because in business, the customer is always right. In traditional sadhana teaching, the customer is always wrong. You know, that's why we're there, is to help us correct our understanding, eliminate our ignorance. And, you know, there's this tremendous humility that is woven into the culture where the guru comes from. But simply put, the guru, they're there to help model to a limited extent. You got to be really careful with this, because oftentimes, you know, we will put a guru onto a pedestal and then we expect them to be a perfect human, and then we get disappointed. But they're not there to model everything in life, but they're there to at least model the teachings and practices that they're teaching. They're also there to do that transmission, that energy transmission that I spoke of before. And there's a mystical element to that we're going to get into in today's meditation. But the other thing that they're there doing constantly is they're doing this revelatory energy thing, because the power of Maya, the power of delusion, comes into our spiritual practices just as easy as it comes into anything else that we do. Sometimes easier, because it's a holy delusion. It's a sacred delusion. So the handcuffs are golden. It's very easy for our spirituality to turn into spiritual bypass. It's really easy for our inner empowerment to turn into grandiosity and narcissism. It's very easy for our self-investment to turn into toxic self-absorption. And honestly, I think it happens more often than not. If you have good teachers, they're going to safeguard some of that for you. They're going to help that power of Maya to not be in your spiritual work and help you keep waking up. Case in point, that teaching where my teacher told me about the sitar master, I said that, you know, I talk about like guru is just like an ordinary thing, but a sadguru, because sadh, like S-A-D-H, means straight, or like direct, as in sadhana. But it's also sometimes said satguru, like S-A-T, which means like being or truth, right? And I told him that the way that I teach it is that the gurus can teach different things, but that the Satguru teaches Sat. They teach the truth. And I said, is that accurate or is that just bullshit? And we were eating at the time. And he said, yeah, that's bullshit. I mean, it sounds good. And like my Western students, they don't know the difference. And there's something kind of true in that they could get from it. But he just told me, no, it's bullshit. And he said, here's what it is. And then he gave me that example that now I can pass on to you. I'm a relatively senior teacher. But I rely on my teachers like him, but also just like senior colleagues. I treasure their satsang so much. I treasure their input so much. And I also continue to rely on the teachings of the masters. I'm not going to keep moving my camera around, but like the pictures of the masters are here. And down here, there's a stack of books. You know? This is by a scholar, but anyway, this scholar, Mark Dyskowski, he's a super, super powerful teacher. I think he's a guru in a certain way. This is Yaneshwar's Gita. This is a commentary in the Bhagavad Gita written by a master in the 13th century who I have a deep connection with. Constantly keeping myself at the feet of the guru. That's the image of humility in learning that comes from the tradition. So we can have this as modern seekers. I think we have to have it as modern seekers, because otherwise we just will not go hardcore enough. We'll just dabble. The guru helps us to go hardcore. But if we go hardcore without supervision, we're liable to get crazy. We're liable to get inflated or diluted or even sometimes harmful. That's how people really go off and really go crazy and start cults and that sort of thing. Is if they're like a really popular teacher, really charismatic, but they have no master. They're no one's student anymore. They've lost that discipleship. That's when spiritual communities turn into really dangerous situations. I'm not worried about that for you. You're probably not a potential toxic cult leader. For you, there's much more of a chance that you just won't even really go for it. Because if you don't have a guru, or you don't have the guru in your life, there's a likelihood that you just don't even know that it's possible. That's what the guru represents, is the possibility of human awakening, of human enlightenment. And they show us what it kind of looks like, what it kind of feels like. That's one of the big dangers of not having it. And like I said, and this is a really important thing, is that in our postmodern moment, we're not going to just have one guru. We're not going to just pledge allegiance to a guru and just get everything from them. We're probably going to be spiritual omnivores, where we get that guru principle from different sources, the way that an omnivore gets all of their nutrition from different sources. It's not like ancient times when there was only one master, if you were lucky enough to know one that you could go and study with. Now you can just open up your laptop or open up your smartphone and you can study under masters that are alive now, masters that have been, passed away for many, many years. You can look up some PDFs of ancient scriptures and commentaries and listen to talks by amazing, amazing teachers so easily. We live in a different time, but we don't want to throw away the baby with the bathwater. There's a mystical element to the guru. And on this full moon of Gurupurnima, I want to invite you to get into a practice with me now, where we're going to experience some of that power. So take a minute and make yourselves comfortable. If you need to adjust your seat or move, maybe sometimes we move from the floor to a chair, from a chair to the floor. Some people like to meditate lying down. I don't really recommend it, especially for this practice, and you'll understand why once we do it. But if that's the only way to do it, then do it. But make yourself ready. This is called Gurubhava meditation. Or sometimes it's called identification with the Guru. This is not the kind of practice that I would ordinarily do on a public, open source kind of thing like this, but I was moved to do it on this special occasion. So set yourself up and let your eyes close, and we'll begin just as we would begin any meditation. Feeling your body in your seat, feeling your breath moving in your body. You may wish to scan through from the top of your head down to your feet and see if there's anything that feels tense. See if you need to breathe into any areas of your body and relax them extra. For this next part, it's a visualization, and I'm going to suggest that if you already have a connection to a master, even if it's the connection of a Christian to the master of Jesus, if you have connections to spiritual masters, that even ones that just really feel iconic and inspirational to you, use one of them for this. And if you don't, I'm going to lead you through an exercise of doing this in a way where you don't need to have such a being. But if you have someone like that, use them. I want you to imagine sitting in front of you like a mirror image kind of you. In other words, they're sitting in the same position as you are. A being, the Guru. And as I said, if you have a specific Guru, use them. And if you don't, you can imagine a traditional image. It's a being who is luminous, dressed in white. This is a tantric imagery. A luminous being dressed in white. In one hand, they're holding a mala, like a string of mantra beads. In their other hand, they're holding nothing, but holding their hand palm facing you, bestowing a blessing of fearlessness. They could be male, they could be female, they could be non-binary. They could be old, they could be young. We start with this traditional imagery of the mala and the hand raised in blessing. But as we move into the meditation, you can imagine that they relax their body and just sit in the same position as you now, with their hands at rest. Their eyes closed, just like yours are. But they're sitting there right in front of you. Really get it as vivid as you can. You can see them breathing. You can feel their energy radiating. You can feel their energy magnetically pulling you, kind of like it's pulling you into them, and kind of like it's pulling you deeper into your own heart space. We're going to do a practice with the breath. Where every time we breathe out, we're going to empty ourselves a little bit. And every time we breathe in, we're going to imagine taking the energy of the Guru and putting it in our body. We're going to go from our feet up to the top of our head. So just feel your breath and start to feel like you're emptying the energy in your feet with your exhalation. And you're taking the Guru's energy and putting it in your feet. I even imagine sometimes like scooping their energy with my hands, like gathering it with my hands and putting it in my feet. You can even touch your feet, touch your own feet when you practice. That's one way to do this. The Guru is in my feet. Sometimes it feels, and you could even envision sometimes that your feet are turning into their feet. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's just you just feel the energy very intensely in your body where you're installing it. Breathe out and empty your lower legs. So like your ankles and your lower shins. And when you breathe in, you're installing that energy of the Guru in your lower legs. The Guru is in my feet, it's in my lower legs. You can touch your body there if that helps you ground. if you're touching yourself, put your hands on your knees, and from the knees down to the mid shin, breathe out, empty energetically. Take the energy of the Guru and install it from your knees to your mid shins. The Guru in my knees, the Guru in my legs. Again, you might be visualizing your knees, your legs, your feet turning into those of the Guru, or just filled with their energy. Breathe out and empty your thighs, thick part of your body, heavy part of your body, your thighs. Or take a few exhalations to really empty here. Into the thighs, all the way to the bones. You're installing the Guru in my thighs. The flesh of my thighs, the bones of my thighs. Keep emptying with the exhale, installing the energy with your inhale. Find your pelvis, your hips, your butt, your pelvis, your sex organs, your whole pelvis. Breathe out and empty. Breathe in and fill your pelvis with the energy of the Master. The Guru in my hips. Even in my sex organs. The Guru in my buttocks. Bring your attention to your belly. The belly, again, many exhalations to empty here. This is where we carry so much. You're breathing out, you're emptying. You're gathering up with the inhalation and installing in your belly. The Guru in my belly, my Guru in my pelvis, my Guru in my legs, all the way to the soles of my feet. Again, you may be transforming, your body might be transforming into theirs, or just filled with their energy. Breathe out the energy in your chest and your upper back. And finish your whole torso. Breathing out, emptying, breathing in, and just filling yourself with their energy. The Guru in my chest, the flesh, the bones, the organs, everything. The whole torso, the back, the shoulders. The Guru in my whole torso. Now from the shoulders, the armpits, to the elbows. Breathing out and emptying the upper arms. Breathing in and filling the upper arms with the Guru. From the elbows now, all the way to the tips of your fingers. Breathing out, emptying, breathing in, like even if you're touching the opposite hand, the opposite arms. The Guru in your arms, the Guru in your hands. The whole torso down to the soles of your feet. All that is left now is the neck and the head. So bring your attention to your neck, your throat. Empty your neck, empty your throat, and fill your neck and your throat with the energy of the Guru. Relax your face and breathe out and empty your face. Empty your whole head, all the chakras inside of your head. All the way up to the top of your head, all the way out to the tips of your hair, if you have long hair, the ears, the eyelashes. Breathing out, releasing, breathing in, and just filling your whole face, your whole head, your neck, your whole body. The Guru in every part. If you transformed into this Guru, then you just sit as the Guru now. You sit as them. What is their meditation like? If you're just filled with their energy, you just sit in this energy, relaxing deeper and deeper. If something feels off or goes out, again, you just bring your attention there. You breathe out, you fill the energy back in of the Guru. If there's some part in you that is thinking or feeling or distracting you, again, you just breathe out yours and you breathe in theirs. Another couple minutes. When you're ready, you can let your body sway and move. Try to hold the energy. Try to stay in this Gurubhava. Go deeper into it for this last moment or two. And then gradually start to deepen your breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Very good.